I think the third thing here that to really talk about is just revolutionizing the marketing mix strategy here, because we think of email as either it's a retention effort or it's some like black hat cold email thing. And I feel like you get looped into that black hat cold email thing. But let me give you my use case and you tell me, I'll give you a strategy I'm going to do for my school. So my idea was this. I know roughly what an email is worth. Let's say each email is worth $1 for the purpose of this conversation. Now I'm entered in on, I'm testing with the lowest level just to like as a use case, right? MVP, does it work? I think for that MVP, it's something like 3,000 or 4,000 for a couple $100 a month, something along those lines. I don't remember the exact math, but it basically means I can lose about 90% efficiency on what I think an email is actually worth and even just break even.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it as I'm now letting people that have shown some attention. It's a bit of, it's not prospecting. It's not top of funnel, but it takes email up from the bottom of the funnel and retention into much more of that mid funnel.
Somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah. It really becomes more of that like second, third, fourth, fifth touch point that Facebook would already be doing. And maybe even a touch point before Google, even theoretically that search comes into play. Like it's in still that discovery and consideration and understanding part of the funnel. And for me, it makes complete sense that if that works, then I have the opportunity of trying to amplify the top of the funnel because I know my middle is more efficient. Yeah. And as a result, I'm squeezing more out of every dollar that comes in. And one of the tests that I did initially was I put the tech not on my primary page. I actually put it on, I indexed all my pages based on revenue. And I put it on all of the second and third tier pages. And used it to amplify the revenue value of all those second and third tier pages. And it was undeniable. A page went from half a cent per user to like 3 cents per user. I'm curious what you think about that. And also just the idea of changing the way you think about the marketing mix, because this is not just standard bottom of the funnel retention email anymore. We're using the tool in a new way, if that makes sense. It's
I think it's a great talking point for me because who wouldn't want their marketing mix to shift more towards email? Yeah, it's it's the best one, right? Like it just
I tell people the marketing efficiency on Facebook. If you break even, you're doing great.
Right,
email is like a penny to earn $1,000.
Yeah, it's like totally. So I think all of that is like totally the right way to think about it. The thing that makes this tricky is you just need to keep the inflow of emails versus your existing mail stream like under 10% increase each send of your 30-day actives, right?
Interesting.
That's the constraint on the email side. That's what makes it fucking hard. That's what makes the big Shopify stores the candidates to do it. That's what this Bruce Bolt methodology is all about. The second you get to like 20 or 30% each send you make of cold leads, this is how people spam, by the way. They have a huge body of emails going out and they're adding in cold emails at some percentage to where their metrics are very comfortably below what would cause a problem.
Sure.
But they have these hot, high value leads. That's basically what we have done is like employed a spamming tactic to the mass market in a way where it works, right? So that is, I think it's the right way to think about it. It's just not infinitely scale. But by the way, that equation also increases exponentially. It's just another area that you have to be very careful about because if you break it, it is going to be very annoying to unbreak. We have a full-time deliverability guy who can tell you literally everything. Like Portland Leather Goods, they were like, dude, like I want to. He talked to him every day between Black Friday and Christmas. They're like, we want every last fucking email we can send. Yeah. They were weird. They were not an email first shop, which is strange being 70 or 80 million, whatever they were at the time. They only had 20,000 active contacts on their email list. Now they have 700,000, right? Like because of us, literally. When we were talking to Clavia, I like showed them Portland Leather Goods. I'm like, this is what we can do for people. Like metrics unchanged, list size 50x, right?
Yeah,
like,
and Curtis is so great as like a human being. I love that guy. A big fan of those people.
Yeah, so unless you are in a position where you can have someone like our guy looking at this every day, it is not a strategy where you're like, I am going to press this as hard as possible.
Yeah.
We try to make it something that's quite passive. It's like, if you do this in a relaxed way for 2 years, your list will be 5 times the size that it will be. And this is just math. You're converting 2% on a form. We'll give you, I don't know, maybe 17, 18% if we're getting really judicious on all the shit we're throwing out. So it's like, it's definitely like a 6 or 7x. And, you got to prune them at a rate that's like twice what you would prune other people. But it ends up being, if you were going to have 200,000 contacts in a year, in 2 years, you'd have 1 million. That's just the nature of how it works out.
I mean, the math is, my favorite math equation that I reference all the time when it comes to these growth metrics is like 5% a week is 3x a year.
Yeah.
So it's like, how much are you willing to invest in 3x a year growth? Man, that might be the more aggressive side. Say you cut it in half and it's only 1.5 or 2x a year. Like, it's one of those things where one of my favorite quotes is from this guy, Hank Azaria. You know Hank Azaria, the actor guy, right? Yeah. So he's a voice on The Simpsons. He's like a quarter of the voices on The Simpsons. And he was on the WTF podcast from Mark Maron. And he said, I'm at the same time both wildly overpaid for my job and wildly underpaid for my job. And the point is, let's say he makes $5 million a year to basically go into a vocal booth for 2 weeks and make funny sounds and then leave. That sounds amazing. Like he's wildly overpaid for 2 weeks work, but he's also a quarter of the cast on $1 billion business.
The longest running sitcom that has ever existed. Right,
and my point to that is, if you're using this correctly, you all legitimately couldn't charge an appropriate amount. You're Hank Azaria, right? In this case, people could take a look at it like, oh, it's adding this thing. But to your point of the brand that you were starting to talk about, that was been with you for 2 years.
Yeah, Diff Eyewear.
Diff Eyewear. Like, you legitimately couldn't go to Diff and be like, this is how much we're worth. I mean, you could, but like the ability, like you don't need to, and it wouldn't work. But like, I just find that it's very similar, and that the best tools are one of those things where you legitimately, the quantification of the value ends up being inarguably less than the overall cost. Yeah. And I think the biggest issues that I'm seeing again is people's misunderstanding about how the tech works. Yeah. It leads to the legalities and then the best practices. Because I see so many folks being like, so I'm just going to hit everybody that abandoned cart no matter what. Or I'm just going to do all this stuff. And it's like, you can't apply one set of disciplines to a completely different thing. And to be fair, you guys are kind of defining sort of a new space. And I don't think people initially really understood what the best practice should be. And
we're getting a lot better than that. That Bruce Bolt methodology alone will change everything. It will eliminate the most frequent fuck up by 99.9%. If we don't let someone launch who hasn't set that up, then we will have no problem with brands or Klaviyo ever again. Problem is, when it was self-serve, like the biggest thing that people would do is they just like let it run for 2 weeks, not even send a welcome series to these contacts, wait for 2 weeks, blast them alone, not even in another newsletter. Klaviyo account ruined.
Yeah, because they're
like that is list just, and it's like, it's not a crazy thing to do. They're not stupid for doing that.
No, they're isolating
like,
the list.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to mess up I want to see how it performs. I don't want to mess up my current list or whatever. Yeah. Like when you tell people the reason this works is because you blend and you borrow reputation that you've built. Some people that makes them uneasy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the last part to this is just the brands that I know that are huge advocates, and I won't just go dropping names everywhere, but like the brands I know that are huge advocates that are being really successful, treat this as its own discipline. Yeah. Right? Like they're managing it as though it was TikTok ads or my customer service team or like landing page design or CRO. It is its own discipline that needs to be treated with its own set of rules. Yep. And I think that is, probably the biggest thing that I'm seeing from most people that are successful with it. And I think what you've laid out here, if I can recap the rules, it's blend them into your existing flow with something that is.
And we will show you how to do that. It is a fully white glove onboarding now. We will set up the segments in your Klaviyo account that do that. And what it's doing is it's holding them until a newsletter goes out, and then it's sending them with the newsletter. And then it's doing a welcome series afterwards. Yeah. Once the complainers and the unsubscribers are gone against the newsletter, right? Like I think that's the key.
Yeah, and I think that's an important nuance here. And I like that you've done that as a business where you're saying our biggest liability is misuse of the product, not by any malice, but more just by ignorance. And we have experience.
Yeah.
So we're literally going to hold your hand so that you can see the value of it. Because once the pieces connect and you see where all the parts fit, the value is effectively undeniable. I would imagine your churn rate on the managed onboarding, which is just a SOP of working with you guys, is pretty. I bet there's a lot of SaaS companies that would like to have your numbers. That's where I'll put it.
Yeah. It's gotten a lot better since it was versus being self-serve. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, just one thing I wanted to touch on, and I really, maybe we can leave on this note, is just the problem identification and the solution here feels like it's so disruptive. For those that are more younger entrepreneurs trying to get into something, I think there's a lesson in how this is approached, because, I mean, by no means did you hit a home run the first time at bat.
No.
Right?